Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with Rare Gem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. Our goal is to energize your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy Maxfield.
And I'm Cheryl Watkins-Moore with BioSTL. Hey, Christy.
How you doing?
We are back at it, girl.
Yes, and by the time people are listening to this podcast, we will have celebrated our 1-year anniversary, our birthday.
Yes.
And we are over 11,000 plays and downloads, so we're very excited. As you guys might know, about 40% of our listeners are in the greater St. Louis area, but the rest are out in other states and other countries. So we're really excited that you've been sharing all of the stuff that we're doing with your friends and family, colleagues, and, strangers, anybody.
Thank you for all of our international listeners.
Yes. And we're just really excited that you're spreading the good news. And so we wanted to say thank you. Mm-hmm. And, we want to make sure that you, if you've been listening regularly, as well as those who are turning in for the first time, continue to find this podcast a place where you can take time to step outside of your comfort zone.
Like we do.
Yes.
All the time.
Well, yeah. Most weeks anyway.
Exactly.
So give yourself a pat on the back if you're stepping out with us. If you're not quite ready yet, use this as inspiration. And thanks for having us as part of your busy life.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't heard, we have a new sponsor, Mueller Pros, CPAs and Business Advisors.
Woo-hoo!
They've joined CET and BioSTL to bring our vision and inspiration to you, our listeners. Mm-hmm. You can find their links on entrepreneuriallythinking.com, and you can subscribe to the podcast on whatever your favorite streaming platform is.
Well, getting into our show today, I was reading a blog from a woman reflecting on her trip to the World Economic Forum at Davos. Didn't even know they had this. This is interesting. Where leaders from around the world gathered to discuss the implications of a new industrial revolution. This is the fourth industrial revolution. This is after the revolutions brought about by steam power, electricity, and electronics. The fourth revolution uses digital technology to revolutionize almost every part of our life at an unprecedented pace, from self-driving cars to AI-enabled assistants. And AI, for everybody out there, is artificial intelligence. One of the biggest implications outlined in the industry gender gap report that was referenced in this meeting is just how harmful this revolution may be to the progress of women, because we are underrepresented in tech. Mm-hmm. As market forces transform industries to favor technological skills, women only hold 26% of all tech jobs. That's amazing. Worse yet, we only stand to gain one new STEM job for every 20 that are lost in other disrupted industries. One. If you can compare and contrast this to men, that ratio is a much more favorable ratio, 1-4. The reports make clear, if current industry gender gap trends persist and labor market transformation towards new and emerging roles in computer, tech, and engineering-related fields continues to outpace the rate at which women are currently entering those types of jobs, listen to this, women are at risk of losing out on tomorrow's best job opportunities. That's frightening. Mm-hmm. Today, we'll be speaking with Crystal Martin, great friend, colleague from Launch Code's Coder Girl program. We also have Delia Chasson, a Coder Girl, and Helena Converse, a mentor with Coder Girl, to learn how they're helping to change this dire prediction of women in tech. Don't miss this discussion, because I think this is going to be a very interesting discussion. So stay listening.
Save the date and plan to attend. It's the third annual Vision 2017 Symposium, St. Louis's premier inclusion innovation event for women, minorities, and immigrants. October 19th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at St. Louis Community College, Florissant Valley. Network with local minority and female entrepreneurs and other small business owners. Participate in interactive workshops that will help you market your business idea or product. Get invaluable tools and tips on how to start your business or grow grow your existing one. Learn about small business and entrepreneurial opportunities in the high-growth industries of science, information technology, and manufacturing. You don't want to miss out. This symposium is a collaboration of BioSTL, CET, St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, St. Louis Community College, St. Louis Makes, the St. Louis Mosaic Project, Black Entrepreneur Weekend, and I-10. And we are very excited to announce we have Mr. Lonnie Johnson, African-American engineer and inventor of the Super Soaker water gun, as well as a U.S. Air Force and NASA engineer. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to attend. Just bring your curiosity. Vision 2017, forging a strong, equitable path in innovation and inclusion. October 19th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at St. Louis Community College, Flo Valley. To register and for more information, go to visionstlouis.com.
I am Crystal Martin, and I'm the Coder Girl Program Director at LaunchCode. And I think entrepreneurially thinking is basically the belief that you can do anything regardless of the context that you're in. So I like to call myself an intrapreneur. I have never started a business on my own besides my hairdo business, I guess, in college and high school. But you can create your own enterprise within an organization, which a lot of marginalized people have to do because we don't always have the resources or network or community yet to do that kind of thing. So I think it's being an entrepreneur wherever you are, if it's at your church, if it's at your community group, if it's in your soccer field, if it's at your current job, you can be an entrepreneur anywhere.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are so glad that you're here. Crystal, could you get us started by telling us a little bit about yourself and what Coder Girl is? Because I think most of our listeners might be familiar with LaunchCode, but Coder Girl, probably not as much.
Yeah, so I'm Crystal Martin. I'm the Coder Girl Program Director. I'm originally from Detroit, but I came to St. Louis in 2010 to teach for America. And then I transitioned into a career in tech in a kind of funny, interesting way. But Coder Girl is an education program of LaunchCode that focuses on getting more women engaged in the tech community. I like to say Coder Girl is a place for you to network, learn, and create. And so it's an education program. Women participate in a 6-month learning track where they learn anything from front-end web development to Java to data science, UX. And from there, they, work on projects with their mentors to really build an industry-level project to display to an employer. And so the idea is that women will go through this program and then transition into an apprenticeship through LaunchCode.
So why the importance of Coder Girl? I want to step back to going back from you were a teacher.
I was.
And
then she said she had a funny, interesting transition into tech, and then
that's
we didn't hear anything
exactly.
More.
You know we're going to come back to it.
I know.
Yeah. We don't miss anything. So what is that? What was that?
So I always tell this story, so I know my friends are probably going to be like, oh, God, this thing again. But it's always so funny whenever I tell new people, like, oh, my God, you're ridiculous. But anyway, so at the end of my teaching career, I basically felt like I wanted to move into something that I could really blend together my love for creativity, but also my love for logic and science and community. And I had kind of heard over and over again, like, coding is a field you can go into that is creative. And then, and I look at my uncle who worked for AT&T, and I was like, is he the creative? But I remember him talking about it, and he would always try to encourage us to at least look into computer science because they have good jobs and it's fun work.
Yep.
So I was literally just sitting in my room thinking, I'm leaving St. Louis. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I was like, let me go on Meetup.com. I had just heard about it. It was basically just gaining traction at the time. It was about early 2014. So I went on there and I looked up coding meetups. And there were a bunch of ones listed, and I looked at the one that seemed to have the most activity and the coolest logo. I saw STL Ruby.
Creative.
Creative. And I'm like, STL Ruby, that sounds fun. They got this little pixelated logo. I'm going to show up to that one. So I show up to it, and I walk in and I realized that I was the only woman and person of color there.
Ooh, intimidating.
It was actually just kind of
wow.
What? I wasn't necessarily scared. I was just like, well, let's see how this is going to go. And the room kind of stopped for a moment. And then Amos, who is the organizer, kind of looked at me and was like, hey, how are you? Come on in, get a beer, grab some pizza. And that was that. And I was sitting there with him, and he was saying, we're going to do an exercise. They all got like a prompt or a problem to solve in different groups. And so he was like trying to explain to me like test-driven development and like heaps and stacks. And I was just like, nope, don't understand anything. And he's just like, you know what? Like, it's okay. When you keep coming, you're going to like learn things just by being in the environment. Yep. But in that moment, I realized that Ruby was a programming language. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. I thought it was just a bunch of nerds that decided to call it the Ruby meetup. Like, we're going to call it this. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'm a Cancer. It's my gemstone. I'm going to show up to this meetup. These are my kinfolk. I don't know. And it was like 35 minutes into it. I was like, oh, so that's a language. Cool. Great. Not telling anyone. But yeah, I met one person after another. So like I went to another meetup and I met Brad Urani there, who at the time had started a company here and was taking launch coders. And he was just kind of like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, you're not ready for a launch code apprenticeship, but you seem excited. My friend is starting this girl coder thing. Here's her phone number, email address. And it wasn't even like that's just the way he communicates. It's really funny. But yeah, I got Colleen's number. So Colleen Liebig, I guess now Colleen Jenkins at Cultivation Capital. This was her brainchild. People call me the founder. I'm not the founder. I guess I'm the founder of what Coder Girl is today, but she had the initial idea. So I got on the mailing list and showed up to the first meetup, and there were like hundreds of women there.
That's amazing. Yeah,
I think she thought, like, I'm going to get together with some girls at a coffee shop, wear a coat, and I'd be in the big, like, boy class at the Peabody with Launch Code. And then, like, all these women were like, actually, me, I want to do this too. And that's kind of how it all started. And how
long ago was that?
That was in 2014, May 2014. And so at the end of that year, I was, still learning CS50, which is the class we were taking. And we were kind of just trying to figure out, like, how to make Coder Girl cool again. Because, we had some drop off. And Rosa was sort of like, who works at Launch Code as one of the founding staff members, is just like, you should just apply for a job at Launch Code. like I'm giving away like work for free.
Right.
So I applied and I got a job.
Very
and
cool.
It kind of just made they sort of made a position for me as a community engagement manager. And it was just like this kind of great confluence between all the skills and experience I had up to that point.
I was going to say your teaching skills.
Yeah.
That's a great, you're going into a program or developing a program that didn't exist for a specific population. That's really cool. That's a great story too.
Oh, it is. And you should tell it all the time, no matter how many times your friends have heard it. Absolutely. I love, that's my sign in my gemstone.
I know. That's what I was thinking, like, hashtag typical girl in tech, I guess. No, it's just like, ooh, Ruby.
Hey, whatever gets you excited, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever gets you excited.
Right.
And it's a great community, too. I mean, like, they are the reason I'm still doing this, right? Like, I would not be sitting here talking to you if they hadn't been intentional about saying that this is a place where you need to be. We need educators.
And they were welcoming, obviously, to somebody.
Intentionality is huge. Right. The welcoming piece.
Yeah, because they could have just said, like, okay, great, you're
here.
So
what are you doing? Or what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or assuming I was a recruiter, which Helena has a story about that. You can talk about
Okay, so then I got lots of head nods from Helena and from Delia. So we've got a mentor and a mentee. Because you came in, Crystal, and created a way to reach out to the community and let folks know what's going on. So how did you guys find out, whomever wants to take it, run with it, how'd you guys find out about Coder Girl and start to get involved?
Well, actually, funnily enough for me, I actually found out about this through Amos as well. Zach from Launch Code wound up going out to the Ruby meetup group and was looking for mentors. And I pretty much only wind up going to meetups in St. Louis when I'm presenting something. So he had reached out to me, was like, hey, like, you're interested in doing this stuff. Like, there's a group for getting women into coding. Thought you'd be really interested in that because I have a passion for teaching. I wind up mentoring. At work, I wound up having a funny line where I was trying to balance because we're a software consultancy, or I work at a software consultancy. So
how did you get involved into coding, into IT, Helena?
So I wound up getting into coding by failing hard at trying to be a doctor. So
okay. That's okay.
Yep. I went to college.
If you're going to fail, you might as well put every ounce of energy into it.
Oh my gosh, yes. When I failed, it was spectacularly amazing. My freshman year, so at least it was,
right at the beginning.
Fail hard, fail fast.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. Entrepreneurial lessons right from the beginning.
Yep. So I wound up, failing out of biology and chemistry in the same semester. Got put on academic probation, was forbidden from taking any natural science classes for a semester.
Oh my God. Don't take them.
Yeah.
I just have this vision of like, you are forbidden.
Right.
You shall not.
You will not acquire any more natural science knowledge at all. You have deemed yourself unworthy.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So banned from the sciences.
Yes, banned from natural sciences. So my dad was a software engineer growing up. Like I'd always been exposed to that. My dad was a feminist, so he's like, you know what, I'm gonna introduce you to all of the things that I'm interested in.
Sort of
on
like
the
your
off
uncle,
chance.
Crystal's uncle.
Yep.
Hey, you should pay attention to this.
Yes.
Okay.
So then I switched to computer science, and then absolutely fell in love with it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I have found my people. Mm-hmm. This is amazing.
This is your tribe.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then when I got off of my academic probation, she's like, okay, you're going to apply for Bio 2, Chem 2 again. I'm like, no, I want to transfer to the engineering school. I was like, oh, okay.
Very cool.
So, that is very cool.
So you were already in a position of mentoring and teaching and finding yourself in a leadership position, so to speak, mm-hmm. In the community when your meetup worlds collided, so to speak.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Basically. So, and Amos was, when I first started working at Asynchrony, he was my tech lead. So that was really great for me. He's an amazing advocate. So that was one of those pushed me into a lot of things. Don't just sit there and listen in conversations at work. Tell your coworkers to shut up for a second so you can go ahead and talk. This is okay. Sometimes we need to be reminded.
Yeah. Having an advocate is always a good thing.
And especially in an industry that is heavily male dominated, you can get lost because you don't think you have a voice because you have all these men in these positions, and sometimes you feel like I don't want to say anything. But that's great having an advocate that's a male advocate that says no, your opinion matters and what you think matters. That's great.
It's not even just good; it's necessary.
Yes,
right? Absolutely.
Mentoring
has to happen in all settings,
right? And I talk about the women in tech work is not supposed to fall on women in tech, right? Mm-hmm. We have enough that we're trying to keep up with.
Yes.
And if you are a part of this field and you're interested in growing it and you want it to be here for you to work in the future, then that means you as a male
absolutely
needs to actually help and be an ally, an intentional ally, not just after the meeting when someone talks over you, go, I'm really sorry that happened to you.
Right.
In the meeting you say no. Be quiet.
Right.
She has something to say.
She has something to say. And it's frustrating and it's annoying to sometimes to have men speak for you, air quotes. But
yes,
once you set that up, it becomes the culture.
Yeah.
When you give voice to someone, in that setting.
So Delia, how did you get involved in Coder Girl?
Where should I start?
From the very beginning, the most interesting part.
Actually, the very beginning. So I was. Unlike Helena, never overtly encouraged to pursue anything related to science or mathematics or my dad is an engineer by training, and he would kind of I was reading this kind of short biography about Reshma Saujani, who's the founder of Girls Who Code. And I went to listen to a talk of hers, and she was saying that her dad would ask her these math problems at the dinner table. And my dad did that too. The problem with that being, and I know that he was trying to encourage us, but it was I don't know, it's this ingrained thing that I found a lot of women and girls have, that we're bad at math and that we want to be perfect. So instead of having the wrong answer, we just shut down and we don't say anything. So Reshma will say when they look at Girls Code in the workshops and you press the undo button, you see that there's been lots of code written. They just erased all of it. So instead of showing something and to show that they are putting the work in, they want to be perfect, so they'd rather show nothing. Wow. Which is kind of I guess I don't know what happened for me, maybe, but and in high school there was an AP computer science. I went to an all-girls high school, which was all women for the world. We want you to be the best of the best, and yet there were 3 women out of a class of 70, granted, so it's not huge, but 3 women who took the AP computer science class, and it was the least cool thing that you could do ever.
Even in that setting where...
I mean, one of the best private schools in this country, and I was there was no coding club, nothing, not and that's not even to speak of the state mandates that for computer science that are non-existent, but I can get into that later.
I was going to say, what's state mandates?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So anyway, I fell into it because I was an economics major in college. I went to Washington University here in St. Louis, and I was doing applied economics, econometrics, and I was a second major in healthcare management
nice
in
combo.
the business school. Yeah, I really enjoyed that curriculum, and so I was doing sort of blending all those fields and doing research, and we were using statistical software called Stata, kind of like R and different stats programs. And so it was importing very large data sets, putting in commands, and then it would spit out fancy graphs. And
we love fancy graphs.
I like that.
I know.
I really was not equipped to handle it. Thankfully, we had a neuroscience PhD on the team, but she was great. I mean, she was, again, another instance of an informal woman mentor who was showing me the ropes, showing me, what commands to use, and I was hooked, and then I said, okay, I'm not graduating unless I take a computer science class first. So
awesome.
My second semester senior year, which actually was last year, I graduated in May of 2016. So
congratulations.
Thank you. I took CS 131, which is Washington University's introductory computer science class. And again, was hooked and wanted to find a way to keep working in the tech industry when I had close to zero skills in computer science.
So is this how you connected with, how did you find Coder Girl?
Yeah, so I was taking a launch code class. I was taking CS50X because the college had sent emails saying, you can sign up for this free class, and I was lucky enough to get into the class, and so started attending those. So I was taking 2 very homework heavy computer science classes my second semester, senior year, when, you're supposed to be having the time of your life, taking no classes, et cetera, and I loved it. So, and then I was also taking some entrepreneurship classes, and you probably know Cliff Holcamp.
Absolutely.
He recommended me for the job at Global Hack, which I'm currently the program coordinator there. So that's kind of how I fell into this whole tech startup world. And then I've stayed very close to LaunchCode and Coder Girl. And so that's how I heard about the program, probably from Crystal. She and I talk a lot. So,
and you're in the program currently?
Yes, I'm in the web development cohort. So I'm always trying to further my computer science skills, and I actually transferred. I used to do recruitment, which is why I was nodding my head when you were talking about the recruitment piece. I was hired as a recruitment and outreach coordinator at Global Hack, and so I was going to these meetups because it was basically ticket sales for our hackathon that we $1 million hackathon that we held in October of 2016. So I was brought in. When you start at a startup, it's like, okay, you should have started 2 weeks ago. So I kind of jumped in head first. Okay, most of my friends, were going off to, I don't even know, Turks and Caicos to do extended summer vacations. And I was like, I'm working at a startup in St. Louis. Let's go. Awesome. Which was great. And I've learned so much. And it's
so funny because what you talked about, Helena and Dahlia, and getting involved in college. I remember when I was in college, it was about 1,000 years ago, and they were teaching Fortran and Cobalt. And I paid because I was like, oh, this computer stuff is not going to be around long. Paid somebody to write my program.
That's entrepreneurial.
That's entrepreneurial. So listening to you young ladies talk about getting the passion and really taking that passion and really moving it forward. We're going to come back and talk to you more about just women in tech and some of the things that we talked about before the show started, some of the things that we're seeing. The themes.
We'll be right back.
Miller Prost, CPAs and Business Advisors, is the proud sponsor of today's Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast, offering a full range of professional tax, audit, accounting, and consulting services. Learn more at millerprost.com. MUELLERPROST.com. Miller Prost, CPAs and Business Advisors, advising with vision.
Hi, I'm Helena Converse from Worldwide Technology Synchrony Labs. Entrepreneurially thinking to me is finding a place where you can wind up carving out your own slice of what you really want to do. Like, you don't have to wind up finding a space where it's like, oh, I fit into this box, or like I can kind of shove myself into that pigeonhole. Like, just finding what makes you passionate and making that actually a thing.
So we ended our last segment talking about your million years ago experience with computers.
Yes.
And the thing I want to come back with is that, you know, we all had experiences when we were younger, whether it was not seeing math and science for ourselves or, you know, heading down one path before we discovered that my people are over here doing this amazing thing and I had no idea about it. Which means we have to change the way we think. Right?
Yes.
Change the way we think about math, science, computer science, engineering. I'm married to an engineer. He thinks very differently. His brain works in a different way. He'd be an engineer even if he were a plumber or a baker, but he'd be an engineer. So, Crystal, in your experience, this mindset thing, because we talk about mindset all the time in the context of entrepreneurship. What are you seeing out there? And like, how do we help people see tech in a new way, male, female, or non-binary?
Yeah. Well, I think there's been, an overemphasis on these are the jobs of the future and they are going to pay you a lot of money. I feel like that's where people's brains stop, right? And then you hear on the other side, like, anyone can be a programmer, you know, and it's like learning a language. It's like, no, you're wrong. Everyone can't be a programmer. Everyone, it's not like learning a language.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, like, there's so much nuance in like human language, and like computers are not like that. I mean, there's obviously creative ways to communicate or solve the same problem, but to liken it to human language, I think it's just like short-sighted. Like when I hear educators say, like, I'm advocating for us to have a computer programming class to be a language credit, and I'm like, no, who goes into a Spanish classroom and only learns about Spanish, right? You're learning about the countries that speak Spanish. You bring in food from other cultures. Like, there's so many other things that go along with language learning experiences. You cannot remove that and then replace it with programming.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
If you had a good language teacher, you learn more about culture than you did. The language was avenue for you understanding the culture and being able to communicate within it. But yeah, I want us to think differently. Like, again, like I'm using these like phrases, but technology is all around us, and I think everyone should have an understanding of how things work, because it's going to make you a better fill in the blank, right? It's going to make you a better physician. It's going to make you a better educator. It's going to make you a better communicator. It's going to make you a better activist. It's going to make you a better everything. And that's what, like, when I talk to Coder Girls, and the way I approach the Coder Girl program is like, it's called Coder Girl. Yeah, but like, I want you to program. I want you to learn how to code, so you have these skills that you can go into any context you choose, and you have options. I don't actually, and maybe this is the wrong thing to say, I don't have an expectation for all the women in Coder Girl to be a computer programmer, but they have this skill that they are now armed with that they can take into any context they go into. Maybe they finish Coder Girl and like, great, I finished a project, but I would really like to be an agile coach. Yeah. Now she's got these skills where she can go pick up the other skills in a job, you know, and then she can transition into that.
And
she's going to be more credible.
And she needs to interface with the tech folks, right? Yeah. Absolutely. The programmers and the developers. She can now speak that language.
Right. And I don't want to sound like I'm diverting women from programming, because there are women who just love being programmers, and I want them to be able to do that. But I think this field is changing, and that we all need to get savvy. My boyfriend is a white computer programmer, and I tell him, like, you're going to be obsolete. partially because you're a white dude, but you're not an interesting candidate anymore. There's plenty of you in the field, but like, you got to bring something else to the table. You got to be able to be a leader. You got to be able to communicate. You have to be able to partner with people. Being good at coding is already not enough. People who are good at coding,
it's a prerequisite now,
right, are not getting the types of opportunities they want just by being an excellent programmer.
Helena, what are you seeing? Because you're working, Asynchrony is a large tech company here in St. Louis. You're working with clients to help them solve some of their toughest problems using technology. What are you seeing in terms of this thinking along the lines of you've got to bring more?
There is definitely in everything that we do, you can't just code. Like, one of the biggest things that is actually like super advantageous for working with clients is just not sitting there and just, I am robot, you told me to do this thing, so I will do it. Like, just sitting there and questioning why. Like, why do you need this? Like, we talk about like the 5 whys in doing these things. Like, you just have to revert back to when you were like not even 12, like 5
is the why,
and just sit there and just why
kids, but I hear
why
5 is the why.
And eventually you wind up finding out that the thing that they told you that they wanted, that's not what they wanted. Like, absolutely not at all. They wanted this other thing over here.
It's going back to marketing, understanding the customer need and what they want. And a lot of customers don't even know what they want. It's understanding. You can look,
listening and communication.
Absolutely, or watching people work and just understanding where the gap in the need is. So you've got to get outside of your, the little walls of this is all I'm doing is coding. Going back to what you said,
and like my office, we do test-driven development. We do like 40-hour a week pair programming. Like, it's intense, but like the pair programming, you can't just like sit there and like, all right, so I'm going to sit here and I'm going to program, because you have to be talking with the person next to you. Like, we haven't yet like actually developed like how to actually do like the Vulcan mind meld to where you can have your pair there. Yeah. So you like
communicate and interact.
Exactly. So like, you can't just like in a bubble go ahead and do your own thing. You have to like, we work on teams. So you have to sit there and like talk with your teams and figure out like, what are you going to do? Like,
so
who's
it's
doing
breaking
what?
the stereotypes of tech people sitting by themselves or, eating pizza in a dark room and coding. Right.
You cannot do that. You will not have a job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I like the fact what you talk about, especially for women. We have a lot of folks founding tech-focused companies that are not tech people. I'm one of them.
And I have some in our boot camp right now, non-technical founders.
Right. And I think it's imperative for you to just understand the language of what people are talking about, especially in tech. Because it was a hard thing for me. I was talking to tech people and going, okay, break this down to the dummy level. What the hell are you talking about when we're talking about, we need to have this type of code written or whatever. But I think what you're doing for Coder Girls is it's dual, what you said. It's educating people to think differently and to incorporate this as a skill that can take you into many different avenues.
Right. I feel like sometimes we overthink it. People, say like, we need coding to teach kids or people problem solving skills and critical thinking skills. And I'm like, if you're a living, breathing human being, you already have critical thinking skills. Think of all the things you make decisions about on a day-to-day basis. So it's not like this particular experience is going to teach you those things. It just gives you a new context to flex those muscles.
I was going to say, what it does too is gives you the logic and walking down the logic trail. I think a little bit better. Sorry.
I think we all use problem solving skills every day, but that engineer's mindset of taking a problem and breaking it down in those specific ways, I did not know how to do that before I started computer science. So I don't want to downplay that that aspect of it. It's a different set of tools, right, in our toolbox. As I think I'm just reiterating, right, what everyone else is saying. But having I think part of the reason that I wasn't encouraged to do math, science, and technology was because I came from a foreign languages background, and as someone who knows four foreign languages, well, if you count English, fluently, for the life of me, I cannot equate computer science languages with spoken languages. So thank you so much for saying that, because I'm sick of people. It's just too easy of a parallel to make for people. I think, people want to relate to something, right?
Right.
So they kind of jump to, language. So let's just put, whatever, fill in the blank in front of it. But I think it is really a different way of thinking. And I think, I'm of the opinion that everybody should learn some coding because, and I hope this is something that we can start talking about too, is it gives people power,
right?
And the more people understand coding, the more power they can have. And I want to take power away from white men and give it to other people. And I think
that power.
Yeah, and I think that coding is a really important way of doing that, especially because, as we said, a lot of white men know how to code right now, and we need to change that.
And I think not only that, but going back to Crystal, what you said about kids, I certainly believe that, especially kids coming from communities that are disadvantaged or underserved, this is an opportunity for them that probably can transform their lives, understanding how to code, how to think differently. This is something that I think that, I love what you guys are doing. I especially love the fact that you're specifically talking to women, because a lot of girls get left behind. Just of what you said, Delia and Helena, a lot of our young women don't feel confident in science and math. And this is an opportunity for them to get engaged in opportunities like this. So I applaud you guys for what you're doing.
I definitely think that the examples are important. I guess when I think about the K-12 context, though, I think we overthink it in the sense that we have to get a computer donation, we have to get programming teachers. And it's like, if you just taught math and science the way it should be taught, our kids would be prepared to do whatever they need to do, right? If they looked at everything, if we looked at all of our subjects as a science, as a practice of learning and discovering, you put them in a computer science context and they're going to be able to pick it up. They're going to be able to find their way. Like I was a natural scientist before I started programming. I studied nutrition.
Were you banned?
At Michigan State? I actually got really good grades. And I did quickly realize when I started coding that the approach that I took to problem solving and experimentation in that context did not translate directly to computer science, but I had a process for learning, right? I had an idea of like, okay, here's this big problem, then I have to break it down in a different way, and I have to create different models to actually help me visualize what is happening in the code, but that I was able to do that and run into that problem and not get completely discouraged because of the fact that I had flexed those problem solving and critical thinking muscles in another context. So I think in our education system, we're thinking it has to be this big thing when it could be like, just do better, like teach better, right? And then empower educators to get the knowledge, give them some standards. Because think about it, like you meet any teacher, they have taught themselves how to teach the subject. I was not as good at sixth grade math, even finishing college. And so I started teaching it. But right now they don't have anything to backwards plan off of. They don't have anything to look at as a starting point. And that's not their fault. We make teachers be responsible for figuring every single piece out. Like, say what you want about
as
SLPS,
well as social issues.
Yeah, all of it.
I come from my mom was a teacher, and so I agree with all of what you're saying.
Yes, amen to that and a whole nother show. One of the themes, though, I do hear is that we're really challenging stereotypes from both directions, whether it's the stereotype of the young guy holed up in a room with the other gamers eating pizza in the dark and coding, and playing for 12 hours, or it's the stereotype of not being good at math or science as a woman, or even the stereotype that we're more relational, right? And therefore we'll bring some of those skills into this, into what has been traditionally seen as a non-relational environment for folks. There's a lot of stereotypes that go back and forth here. So amazingly, another half hour has passed. Yes. And so on that note, I'd like to give you guys the opportunity. Any parting thoughts to those women and men out there who are listening? To any of those people listening who say, you know what? I'm up for the challenge. I'd like to learn how to think differently too. Helena, could you?
Pretty much the thing that I would say is basically, like, if you're wanting to get into just trying out computer science and figuring out how that is going to work, it is an amazingly safe way to wind up trying this out and fail. And there's really no bad side effects of it. It's not like you're trying, like, you know, some new baking recipe or some new science experiment where it will literally explode in your face. It's coding on a computer. Like, you can do this stuff online, even if you don't have a computer at home. You can go to the library and, like, try out JavaScript in a browser and start coding. Like,
so access is there.
Yes, the access is there. The barrier to entry is very low.
And mostly in your head.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
and you can go and play with this on your own and fail by yourself where no one is watching, and then wind up going into the bigger spaces and, like, having, like, more information and more knowledge.
That's a good point. I like that.
Delia.
Yeah, so as Helena mentioned, there are so many tools. The amazing thing about learning to code is a lot of it is done online, and there are so many resources already out there online, kind of as a side project. So you can
teach yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Helena was saying.
I'll go on there.
So, and there are so many. I collect all of these websites and resources online,
Delia
and just
will hook you up.
Bookmark them. Seriously, I will, because I love doing this.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
So Mozilla Thimble, for instance, if you're interested in web development, Thimble, like, you know, for sewing.
Yeah.
.mozilla MOZILLA.org. Seriously. So it's a tool that's in the browser. You sign up for an account, you can save everything. That's what I love about tools that are in the browser, is because I also teach classes and workshops on this stuff. So, which, by the way, was one amazing side effect of being in Coder Girl, was I'm learning web development, and now I actually write curriculum full time.
That's amazing.
Very cool. Yeah, and so this has helped me.
So we've got resources that if we want to do in our own time, in our own space by ourselves, we can.
And
if
there
we want
are tutorials.
We've got evangelists in our midst.
And the other cool thing is you can see the result right in front of you. You know, a lot of stuff, especially with web development, a lot of stuff, you know, it seems like you need to break the mystery piece, right? It seems all mystical, but when you can see, when you make a change, you know, there's this poster tutorial, for instance, on Thimble. It's like, I make the change, I write a different word, and right there,
you can see it.
I don't even have to change tabs. Right. I make the change on the left part of the screen and on the right part of the screen, and you should see the students I teach. That's like my favorite part, is when their jaws
is so funny.
drop.
I know,
she is
animated, and I'm telling you,
I'm evangelizing.
And so they're just like, whoa, the color changed.
See?
Like, and that's right there. Like, I know I have them hooked, you know? So, anyway,
awesome.
That's my parting words.
Well, yeah, everything that these women said, but I think they're both modeling this. But if you have skills, you should lift as you climb, right?
Lift as you climb. I love that. Don't be a ladder puller. Don't climb to the top.
Every
and pull the
opportunity
ladder
you've
up
got,
after you.
and look back and think of who wants to come with you. It really, truly takes a village, and community and network is everything. I say, don't learn how to code alone. Go find a community. It is very hard to learn how to code by yourself.
I was going to say, go find your
SL Ruby, right? Like, go be with some people and be wrong in front of them. I can point out names of people that are the reason I'm able to speak to you today, because they believe that I can do it, and they took the extra time to show me how to do it, and they were there, you know, through text message and Slack and all those different things. It really makes a difference, and I think people underestimate what the power of community is, and like your network.
Huge. That's a good thing.
So where can we find out more about Coder Girl?
So you can find more about us at the website launchcode.org/CoderGirl. But we are super active on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @LaunchCoderGirl. So you can kind of see us in action. So those are the best places to find out about us.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for joining us, ladies. It's been a pleasure.
You ladies are fantastic.
Thank you.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. #eThinkSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.